Willow Bend was a small, quiet town nestled along the winding banks of the Illinois River. In 1856, the morning mist rolled over the water like a soft, silvery blanket, curling around the wooden docks and cobblestone streets. Life in Willow Bend was simple, but hard. Farmers rose before dawn to tend to their fields, merchants called out their wares at the marketplace, and children ran barefoot along dusty lanes, chasing each other with laughter that mingled with the creaking of wagon wheels. Yet the river was the town's lifeblood. It brought goods, travelers, and news from faraway places, but also secrets. At the heart of this river was Silas, the enigmatic ferryman. His small, weathered boat glided across the currents with an eerie quiet. People whispered about him, claiming he demanded more than coins. Some said he could see into the hearts of those who boarded his boat, and that the price for passage was sometimes far heavier than anyone realized. 12-year-old Thomas had chestnut hair that curled at the edges and eyes that never stopped asking questions. He was small for his age, but fierce in curiosity. He often lingered near the riverbank, watching Silas row passengers across the misty waters with a calm and measured rhythm. Something about the ferryman fascinated him. Thomas dreamed of crossing the river alone, imagining what lay on the other side. His friends teased him for being too quiet, too thoughtful. He didn't mind. There was a world within his mind that few could see, and the river called to him. Not just the water, but the promise of discovery, of a lesson waiting just beyond the fog. Mary, Thomas's mother, was practical and loving. Her hands were calloused from quilting and baking bread, but her eyes softened even the harshest days. One evening, she caught Thomas staring at the river with that familiar longing. "Thomas," she said, placing her hand gently on his shoulder, "the ferryman is not like other men. Some debts are paid with heart, not silver." "I just want to see the other side," Thomas whispered. Mary sighed, worried for him. "Bravery and foolishness are not the same, son. Some lessons cost more than you can imagine." Thomas nodded, but a thrill of anticipation danced in his chest. The next morning, Thomas crept past the busy market stalls and toward the wooden dock. The fog hung thick over the water, smelling of damp wood and fresh river currents. Silas's boat was waiting, a dark shadow against the gray mist. "Going somewhere, boy?" Silas's voice was calm, almost musical, yet carried weight. Thomas swallowed hard. "Just across," he said. Silas studied him with pale, riverstone eyes, and after a long pause, nodded. "Step in. Remember, the river asks for truth before it lets you pass." Thomas shivered but climbed aboard. The journey had begun. The boat rocked gently as Silas dipped his oars into the gray water. Thomas gripped the sides, his heart racing. He noticed how Silas seemed to read the river, following currents invisible to anyone else. "Why do people fear you?" Thomas asked quietly, voice barely above the water's whisper. "People fear what they do not understand," Silas replied. "And sometimes, what they do understand, they refuse to face." Thomas didn't fully understand, but he felt a chill. The river was more than water. It was a teacher, a test, a mirror reflecting the hearts of those who dared cross. The mist thickened, curling around Thomas like fingers of smoke. The river whispered, carrying echoes of unseen voices. Thomas felt a chill crawl up his spine. "Do you always take more than money?" he asked, his voice shaking. Silas's eyes glimmered. "Only those who cannot give what matters most." Thomas shivered again. The ferryman was not asking for coins. He demanded courage, truth, empathy, and honesty. A sudden swell rocked the boat violently. Thomas clutched the edge as the water hissed around them. His heart pounded and fear gripped him. "Fear is natural," Silas said, steadying the oars. "The river knows who is brave and who is honest." Thomas realized the test was not of his strength, but of his spirit. This journey demanded something he had never given before: courage to face himself. Through the mist, Thomas saw a small figure on the opposite bank, a girl no older than 6, crying silently. She seemed lost and alone, her small hands reaching out. "Who is she?" Thomas whispered. Silas's gaze did not waver from the water. "Sometimes the river brings reminders of what we've lost," he said. Thomas felt an ache deep in his chest, though he had never truly lost anyone so tragically. The river was teaching empathy, compassion, and awareness of others' pain. As they drifted forward, Silas spoke of Willow Bend's past. He spoke of a man who refused to help a neighbor, only to see his barn consumed by fire the next winter. He spoke of a woman who forgave a thief, who later saved her family from ruin. Thomas listened in awe. Silas wasn't cruel. He was a living memory, a guardian of moral truths. The river reflected the choices of men and women, revealing their consequences. Suddenly, Silas stopped the boat midstream. "Your turn," he said, voice firm. "My turn for what?" Thomas asked. "For honesty. The river asks for a truth you hide. Are you ready?" Thomas's hands trembled. He thought of lies, small betrayals, times he had hurt others with selfish choices. He whispered each one aloud, shivering, yet feeling a strange release with every confession. The mist seemed to lift slightly as Thomas admitted his mistakes. The water grew calm, as if listening. "The river forgives those who face themselves," Silas said, "but only those willing to see what truly matters may cross without loss." Thomas felt a weight lift from his chest. Courage and truth had become the currency of his passage. Suddenly, the mist thickened, forming a dark shadow. It loomed over Thomas, embodying his greatest fear, the fear of failure. His knees shook. "Face it," Silas said. "The river does not move for fear." Thomas swallowed hard. "I am afraid I will fail those I love. I want to do better," he said. The shadow dissolved like smoke. Calm returned, and Thomas felt warmth, a recognition that courage and truth could conquer fear. The river shimmered, catching sunlight through the fog, casting a golden glow over the boat. Silas nodded faintly. "Few children are honest enough to speak so. You have paid your fare." Thomas felt a new sense of peace. The lessons he had learned, courage, honesty, empathy, were more valuable than any treasure. Silas guided the boat back to Willow Bend. The sun sparkled on the waves. Thomas felt a quiet reverence. He now understood that crossing the river was a journey within, not just across water. Every ripple seemed a message. Truth is a light, fear a shadow, and kindness a bridge. Back on the shore, Thomas noticed the little girl again, now safely reunited with her mother. He realized the river had taught him a vital lesson. Helping others, showing empathy, and acting with heart was part of the fare Silas demanded. Kindness was currency, and compassion a passageway to true understanding. Thomas returned home, saying little of Silas. Instead, he helped his mother at the market, assisted neighbors, and listened more carefully to friends. Slowly, he noticed the ripple of small acts spreading outward. Integrity, he realized, was a lifelong fare, not a single payment. Weeks later, Silas appeared less often. Some said he had crossed to another world. Others whispered that the river itself had swallowed him. But his lessons endured. Courage, honesty, and empathy lived in those willing to act upon them. Decades later, Thomas, now a grown man, told the story to his own children. He spoke of the ferryman who demanded more than coins. He demanded honesty, courage, and heart. Those who gave willingly were never truly lost. Thomas often returned to the riverbank, reflecting on Silas and the lessons learned. The river's whispers were no longer frightening. They were comforting, guiding, and eternal. Life's fare, he realized, was never coins. It was truth, courage, and love in small, deliberate acts. One misty morning, Thomas watched a child approach the river, wide-eyed with curiosity. A smile touched his face. Perhaps Silas had returned. Or perhaps the ferryman was never important. The river had taught its eternal lesson. The fair life asks, is never silver or gold, but a willing heart, ready to face itself. Thomas whispered a silent prayer of gratitude, and the river shimmered in quiet acknowledgement. The legend of the ferryman, long forgotten by some, lived on in every courageous, honest heart willing to pay its fare.